You're listening to Southeast Radio's Business Matters with Karl Fitzpatrick in association with Wexford Insurances. Challenge us at Wexford Insurances 0818 31 30 30.
My first guest this morning is Neil O'Brien from Quantum Business Solutions and author of a new ebook titled The 10 Reasons Why Social Media Does Not Work. Neil, you might start by telling me a bit about your own background, please.
Started off life as a management accountant, spent 15 years working in accounts in the UK, the US and back in Ireland. Worked for some big companies, multinationals like Pfizer's and EMC. But I suppose I always enjoyed working for smaller businesses. So what I did was, in 2003, I started my own business. I bought a global franchise, which was really very much in the area of sales and marketing. So I started working with small businesses then, doing work for the enterprise boards, training and mentoring, mostly in the area of sales and marketing. And I've worked with about, 400 businesses in the last 9-10 years.
The reason I asked you to come into the studio this morning is to have a chat to me about this new ebook that you've just written, Social Media, 10 Reasons Why It Does Not Work. What inspired you to write this?
Well, Karl, as I said earlier, I've worked with about 400 small businesses in the last 10 years. And while I've seen social media work for many of them, I know many examples where it has worked. I know many others where it hasn't worked. And from my experience, the majority of businesses, social media does not work for them in terms of giving them a return. Now, what really prompted me to write the ebook was I run a lot of training courses for the Enterprise Board. And I ran 2 courses there a few months ago. And now, just to give you an idea who was in the course, there was a real mix of businesses. There was architects, accountants, car dealers, shops, all different kinds of businesses. And I actually asked them while the course was going on if they were putting time into social media. Now, most people on the course were. They were putting time into Facebook, LinkedIn, Twitter or blogging. So they were all putting time into it. Now, the next question I asked them was what return they were getting from it. And after discussing it for a while, we discovered that they were actually getting no return from it in terms of sales or strong inquiries. So that really prompted me to write the book. That confirmed my own feeling, is that a lot of businesses do not get a good return from social media.
So Neil, tell us, what are the top 3 reasons why social media doesn't work for businesses out there today?
Yeah, Karl, I've narrowed it down to 10 reasons, but the top 3, in my opinion, are lack of time, expertise or money. So the businesses where social media does work seem to have some combination of those in place. And for those that it doesn't, they're lacking in some of those 3. So time, expertise or money. Now, the time one, a lot of small business owners, as you probably know yourself, time is a factor. And I would guess that most people have about 2 hours a week to put into marketing. Now, social media is a lot to learn. It's a lot to learn, and I find a lot of people simply do not have the time to put into it. Now, if they have the money to put in, sometimes they can buy in the expertise themselves if they don't have the time to put into it. But again, cash flow is very tight for a lot of businesses, so many of them do not have the money to invest in social media. So they're the top 3 reasons that I've come across.
I know, Neil, that from speaking to lots of CEOs of enterprise boards across the country that they're absolutely inundated with requests from business owners to attend social media courses. Do you think that attending a short course on social media is the solution to overcoming the expertise issue?
Yeah, Karl, I work very closely with the enterprise boards myself, so I know that the demand for those courses are very high. Now, I've actually attended some of those courses myself, and what I found, and even talking to other people who've attended courses as well, from their experience, what we found is that those courses cover the why part very well. So why businesses should look at social media. They cover the what part quite well, but it's the how-to part that is probably very difficult for them to cover in a short course. The thing about social media is, to me, there's a huge block. There's a huge learning curve involved, and even attending those courses might get you on the very start of it. But then it needs a big investment of time. I mean, somebody said to me recently, learning social media is a bit like a degree, the amount of work that's involved in it. And unfortunately, most small business owners don't have the time to study a degree and look after the business and their customers at the same time. So these courses just scratch at the surface, really, in terms of the amount of knowledge that's needed for a company to be able to get value from social media.
So what advice would you give to a small business owner today that wouldn't be hugely resourceful, but would want to tap into the mass market that exists on social media sites?
Well, to me, Karl, social media is about marketing, and it has to give a business a return. So they have to see some return in terms of inquiries or sales. Now, if a business is putting time into social media and is not getting a return, then I would think they should seriously consider maybe doing something else. Now, the second part of my book actually covers zero-cost marketing, which is all about referrals, networking, going back to people who bought from you before, following up prospects who maybe inquire about your product or service but don't buy from you. Now, in my book, these marketing tips and marketing ideas are far more effective. They're far more immediate and effective than social media. So that'd be my advice for small businesses if they don't have the time, is maybe look at other ways of marketing and getting sales.
I want to touch on some of those offline strategies later on in the interview with you, but before we go there, tell me about some of the other reasons why social media marketing doesn't work for businesses out there today.
Carl, what I found is that quite often people are putting time into one of the social media and it may not be the right one for them. So when I talk about social media, I suppose what I really mean is I'm talking about Facebook, LinkedIn, Twitter and blogging, which most people would accept as being the main social media. Now I know people, for example, who are putting time into, say, Facebook, when it was the totally wrong media for them to be using. So the first challenge a lot of people face is they're not sure which of the media to use. And that's the first stumbling block. And it leads to confusion, and people are maybe doing little bits of all of them when they should really be focusing on maybe getting up to speed on one of the other main reasons I see out there for people not getting the value from social media. Now, even what I find is, even say if they do arrive at the correct media for them to use, there's still a steep learning curve. So say, for example, if a service business, an architect or an engineer, for them it's maybe LinkedIn may be the way to go. So even if they do decide arrive at the correct media for them, there's a very steep learning curve for them to get up to and learn on. So it's another challenge for them really, is getting up to speed with the right media once they've found the right media.
Neil, just to focus on a very valid point that you made there in the last answer you gave me in relation to businesses not knowing what mediums to use from a social media perspective that they should be focusing on. Can you demystify that for me this morning?
Yes, Karl. What I would say around that is that the first thing I'd say around it is that in a way social media, even though it's quite new, the approach to social media isn't that different from, say, traditional marketing, in that people have to know who their target market is and they have to know where to find them. Say, for example, if you're a shop and you're selling to consumers, I would think that Facebook or Twitter may be the best medium for you to use. If you're selling to business to business, then maybe LinkedIn will be a better platform for you. So if you're an accountant, say architect, engineer, if you're a professional selling to businesses, then LinkedIn may be a better medium for you to use. So it's really down to market research and knowing who your target market is and knowing where to find them.
The second part of your ebook deals with alternative marketing techniques. I'd like to have a chat to you about some of those now.
Yeah, certainly, Karl. The first thing to say, I suppose, is that the traditional newspaper and radio is still very effective. A lot of my clients still use that. It's been around a long time, and I think it will continue to be around for a long time yet. They say that it's 6 times easier to sell to an existing customer than it is to sell to a new one. And what I find is that a lot of my clients are focused on finding new people all the time, and they forget about the person who bought from them 6 months ago or 12 months ago. So what I encourage people to do is have a system in place for going back to people who bought from me before and encourage them to buy again. So email can be very effective, text, writing, walking in, social media, I suppose, is a way of keeping in contact with people. So every business really should have some system to keep in regular contact with their clients to encourage them to come back and buy again.
Good. As they say, repetition creates reputation. What else have you on that list?
Next one I have, Karl, is referrals from customers, which is one of the most effective marketing methods I've ever used myself, actually. I might just tell you a short story on that one. I was at a conference about 6 or 7 years ago and I met a guy at it who was using referrals from customers very effectively. And at the time I was doing lots of different marketing myself, and he told me that the only marketing he was using was getting referrals from customers. So he passed me on his system, which I started using. Now, what's involved really is when you're working with an existing customer and they're happy with you, is to ask them for 3 names of people they know. Now, what I'd normally do is I would jot down the names of the people, their names and contact details, and then I would ask my customer if he or she would be okay phoning those 3 people, tell them briefly what I'd done for them, and would it be okay if I contacted them. Now, sometimes people are not comfortable doing that, but other times people will actually make the call. And I find this makes a huge difference, because when I go and contact those 3 people, my customer has rung them already. I suppose in my head, he's warmed them up. They're expecting my call. They know what I do. My customer has told them about me. They know that I've done some work for the customer. And I find that a very, very effective way of getting new business and new clients, is using your existing customers to do so.
Neil, the thing I like about those few strategies is they're very, very low cost. It's one challenge for business people out there today to get people in the door. But the next challenge they have is actually getting them to actually buy. Because there's a stat out there that states that for retail businesses, as little as 1 in 10 actually buy that come through the door. Have you any suggestions in relation to that?
Yes, Karl, it's an excellent point actually, because it's one of the areas I've had a lot of success with businesses. The first thing they have to do is measure it, because quite often people think it's higher than it is. So I always get people to measure it first. So for every 10 or 100 people who come in the door, how many actually buy? Now that alone will get people focused on it and get it improved. Now, one of the main, I suppose one of the things I've had most success with, Karl, over the last year or two, is actually getting people to, if somebody's in, they don't buy on the day, is to take their name and contact number and follow up with a phone call. Now, maybe wait a week or so if somebody hasn't come back and bought, is to follow up with a phone call. This is very, very effective. Now, what we found when we do that is people will fall into 3 categories. Now, the first one is, if somebody's gone off and bought somewhere else, well, you want to know why. Was it price? Was it the product? Was it the salesperson? The second category is maybe people aren't ready, especially if it's something for the household, maybe like a kitchen or bathroom. Maybe the house isn't ready. The third category now are the ones you really want short term. These are the people who are ready to buy. They've shopped around. They're close to a decision, yet they haven't bought. So what can you do to get those people back in? And we've had huge success using that strategy over the last couple of years with quite a few businesses.
Well, Neil, we'll have to leave it there. Many thanks for coming in this morning, and I wish you continued business success.
You're listening to Southeast Radio's Business Matters with Karl Fitzpatrick in association with Wexford Insurances. Think Wexford Insurances for your business insurance.